Hey everybody, welcome to Community. I hope you are having a great night so far. I'm excited to spend the next few minutes with you. If this is your first time, I want to personally say welcome to you. I'm sure you're finding out already that the people in the room with you are just some of the most amazing people on earth. And let me ask you a question like I do every night for everybody. Do you consider yourself an influencer? So when I was in college was right when Instagram was taking off. And it was the time when you go back in people's profiles now and you scroll all the way down to when they were using like the Valencia filter and everything's brown for some reason. Yeah, that was when I was in college. And I remember right after graduating college, one of my buddies started posting these extremely high quality pictures of himself and some very good looking friends in places like Yellowstone National Park and the Grand Canyon, things like that. And they were just wearing these brands like brands of clothing like North Face and Patagonia, and he'd be posting these reviews and basically like sales pitches for these products. And I was like, what is he doing? Like, this is so weird. And I go to his profile and the amount of followers he has a K in it now. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, it's not even numbers now. It's got a K in it. And I've never seen anybody with that many followers at this time. And so I texted him. I said, bro, like, what is your life now? Because I'm over here and I'm taking pictures of my lunch, and it's like heavily filtered and the vignette is turned all the way up for some reason, So I'm asking him like, hey, what is going on? Like, what is your life? And he says, oh, I'm an influencer now. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What is that? I've never heard of such a thing. He said, what I do is companies pay me to go to these amazing places and to take pictures of myself and my friends in their stuff, and then people see those pictures and they go and buy the stuff. And I was like, whoa, it blew my mind. Like, that is real influence. And we all want some kind of influence, right? Like, if you ever want to make an impact on anything or anyone, what you really want is influence. But for most of us, influence seems like something that's just for famous people. It's like, it's gotten really bad actually, culturally. We've gotten to a point where basically, in order to like have any influence or for your life to count at all, you've got to be famous. But for many of us, we want our lives to count for something. And for most of us, we'll never be famous. We want to make an impact. We want to have influence on something. And actually, we feel mostly powerless to do so. We feel powerless to impact big things like the political situation in our country or global poverty or injustice, things like that. But we also feel powerless to impact small, local things like the problem in your marriage that keeps popping up, or the not so great environment at work, or we so desperately want to have a positive impact on our kids or on our friends, and we want influence. We want to change things. We want to influence things for the better, but it kind of seems like you have to have influence in order to be influential, if that makes sense. You have to have influence in order to influence. But did you know that you do have influence? Experts actually say that the average person will influence 10,000 to 80,000 people over the course of their lifetime. 10,000 to 80,000. When I read that, I was stunned, and then immediately I was terrified. Like, that's so much influence. Like, that's so much pressure. And with that much influence comes so much responsibility. Like, how can I make it count? How can I make a positive impact? The question immediately went from how can I increase my influence to what do I do with all this influence? Like, how do I make a positive impact on the world? Well, did you know that Jesus is without a doubt the most influential man to ever live? No one really actually debates this fact. Not a single person has had more of an impact on the world and even on your life than Jesus. I mean, we measure what year it is based on when he came into the world. Like, that's influence. Jesus is the most influential person to ever live. So naturally, I want to know how it is that he chose to make an impact. Check out Philippians 2. Paul, an early follower of Jesus and a leader in the church, wrote this to other Christians. And in the context of what he's writing, he's telling them how to approach life, particularly life with other people. And he's wanting them to approach life like Jesus did. And this is what he says. He says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest but each of you to the interest of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. What's he saying? He's saying, look at how Jesus lived. The most influential man to ever live. How did he make an impact? He did it by walking into every room and valuing everybody else above himself. Jesus, the most important person in the universe, walked into rooms and thought of everyone else as more important than he was. He cared for their needs more than his own. He put their interests above his own. He took people who society had devalued and put down, and he lifted them up. Jesus didn't seek the spotlight. In fact, when he would heal people, there's tons of stories about this. When he would heal people, he would often tell them to keep it a secret. In every room, Jesus was the highest ranking person in that room, but he always took on the role of the servant. That's how he made an impact. Imagine the impact you could have in your home or at your workplace or in your group of friends, whatever, if you, in your relationships, had the same mindset as Jesus. Imagine how different you would be, like in the best way. Imagine how much your life would stand out if when you walked into a meeting, you decided everyone else's needs mattered more than your own. Like imagine what kind of leader you'd be if instead of shining the spotlight on yourself or wanting the spotlight all the time, you acted as a spotlight shining on other people. Like imagine who your kids would grow up to be if they got to watch you serving them and other people all the time, putting their needs above your own. Imagine how your friend group or your family would change if everyone acted like that. Well, you can't control everyone. You can only control you. So imagine what it would be like if you did that. Now, for a second, imagine what it would be like if a whole community of people chose to live their lives this way. Imagine the impact they could have. Imagine if you guys, watching this together, decided as a group that you would be a people who would seek out the needs of other people above your own. Maybe those in the neighborhood you meet in. Or maybe like you think about how can you serve the neighborhood that you meet in? Or maybe you can adopt a need in our city and take it on together. What kind of impact do you think you could have? Imagine that for a second. And imagine this. We have several communities meeting all over the city, and we're starting more all the time. Imagine what kind of impact we could have all together. What an amazing difference we can make if we just valued everyone else above ourselves. You want to have influence? Then what you do is you think of everyone else as more important than yourself, and you decide to serve them. What would it be like for an entire community of people to do that? You could spend a lot of time dreaming on that right there. So what I wanted to do is I want to give you some space to do just that. There's going to be some questions that pop up on your screen, and I would love for you guys to take a few minutes and just to think about those and to dream about the kind of impact that you could make. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I love you guys.